Okay, let's look at a couple of the homework problems from section 5.8, the quadratic formula. We're going to start with 1 and 5. These are quadratic formula problems. So remember, the quadratic formula uses standard form ax squared plus bx plus c, and that has to be equal to 0. And then the quadratic formula is equal to the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay? So in our problem here, this is already set equal to 0, and they're in the correct order, the squared, the x, and the whole number. So this is a, this is b, this is c. So we've got x equals the opposite of positive 8 is negative 8 plus or minus the square root of 8 squared minus 4 times a, which is 2, times c, which is 12, all over 2 times a, and a is 2. So here x equals opposite of 8 plus or minus the square root. 8 squared is 64 minus 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 12 is 96. And then that's all over 2 times 2, which is 4. So then x equals opposite of 8 plus or minus the square root. Now I got to take 64 and minus 96. So that's going to be negative 32. Okay, and that's all over 4. Okay. Now, from the lesson that we just went over, see that the discriminant is negative 32. Well, since taking the square root of a negative, we know we're going to have an imaginary solution in here. We're going to have 2 imaginary solutions. So now let's reduce the square root of 32. Divide 32 by 2, you get 16. So that's a perfect square. So we're going to break this up into 16 times 2. So x equals opposite of 8, or negative 8, plus or minus. Now the square root of 16 is 4. The negative comes out as an I, and you're left with square root of 2 all over 4. And now we've got 3 terms here, and they're all divisible by 4. So we can take the 4 out, which is going to get you negative 8 divided by 4 is negative 2. Plus or minus, take the 4 out of the 4i square root of 2, and you're just left with I square root of 2. And of course, 4 divided by 4 is just 1, so we don't need that in the denominator. So there's your answer for the first problem. Okay? Now, let's do one more. So on number 5, here, this is not in the correct sequence, so we need to bring these terms over to the other side. I like to keep the x squared positive. I just think it's easier. So I'm going to subtract off 3x, and I'm going to add 1, and that's equal to 0. So here's my a, my b, and my c. And notice there's no number here, so that's a 1. Okay? It's a 1x squared. So now x equals the opposite of b, so the opposite of negative 3, which I'm going to write like that. You can switch that directly to a plus if you'd like. Plus or minus the square root of b squared, so that's negative 3 squared. Make sure you put that in parentheses, especially if you're going to plug it straight in your calculator. Minus 4 times a is 1, times c is 1, so that's kind of nice. All over 2 times a is 1. So then x equals, this is going to be positive 3 plus or minus the square root. Negative 3 squared is 9. Minus 4 times 1 is just 4, and then this is all over 2 times 1, which is 2. Okay, and now we just simplify the square root. This is 3 plus or minus the square root. 9 minus 4 is 5 over 2. Doesn't look like there's a common factor, so there is our final answer. Okay.